Hi there, I'm Skaji, I'm a practicing witch and a professional tarot nerd. I'm glad you're here. I don't know if you've ever had this kind of experience before, but I remember once I was picking up a drink to take a sip and thinking I had a Diet Coke when I actually had unsweet tea, and for that first little moment, my drink tasted like Diet Coke until my taste buds and my brain caught up and it tasted like the unsweet tea that it was. It was a very jarring moment. Talk about cognitive dissonance. You see, what was happening there was that I had expected Diet Coke, and that's what I got for just a moment. And that is the topic of today's video, managing our expectations. Managing expectations is a very important tool for any kind of divinatory practice, because if we're looking for a thing, we're going to find that thing. And this is true whether you're performing divination for yourself or for someone else. Now, we've all known at least one negative Nelly that found something wrong with everything. If you haven't, you're very lucky indeed, or you're that person. To be honest, we've all been negative Nelly at least once. That's okay. It's a humanity thing. Now try this experiment the next time you're out and about. Expect to see a purple car. Now if you're out and about, well, you're likely to see lots of cars. I'd almost be willing to bet you good money that you'll see a purple one. And that's because you were expecting to see it. You had primed your brain to see that purple car, to notice it. If you watched my video on divination and fortune telling, you'll recall that I mentioned there are 3 reasons I don't want to know a seeker's question. One of those, not knowing the question, it really allows me to manage my expectations. And there's a link to that video in the description below. If you search the inner tubes for the term managing expectations, you're likely to get quite a few results concerning communication in business settings. That's not really what I mean by it here. You might also find links about managing expectations in interpersonal relationships. And that's a little closer to my meaning, but it still doesn't really hit the mark. What I mean when I say manage expectations is all about getting out of our own way by clearing our little heads of any expectation of the outcome of the divination itself. It's not always an easy thing to do. It takes practice. And the deck, metaphorically speaking, is always stacked against us, simply because evolution has wired our brains in such a way as to help us survive. Everyone is prejudiced. I can almost hear the protests. Don't come out with the torches and pitchforks quite yet. You see, it's a dirty word, that prejudice. And in the context in which we normally use it, it should be. However, every human alive prejudges about something, probably lots of somethings every day. In fact, I'd say that you made a prejudgment about this section as soon as you heard me say that everyone is prejudiced. And that's okay, I forgive you, because I kind of set you up. Forgive me? Human beings are wired to make snap judgments on the fly, and we're not the only ones. Other animals do that too. Hey, there's a thing. Does it want to eat me? Can I eat it? Can I mate with it? Will it eat me if I try? There's a theory of cognition called the dual system model. It describes 2 systems, 2 systems that we use to process information and make decisions on how to act on that information. And these 2 systems are generally called System 1 and System 2. It's not very creative. I don't think they really consulted with focus groups when they were naming these. Anyway, System 1 is quick. It's really, really quick. And it needs to be. That's the part of us that we share with other animals. It makes quick decisions based on immediate input so we can run away from the things that want to eat us. And you might call it the intuition. System 1 is also where we make snap judgments, where we prejudge. Now, System 2 is more deliberate. That's the part that kind of thinks things through. It does the complicated math problems and ponders things like cognitive processes. Now, System 2 also prejudges, so don't go thinking it's all noble and stuff. It's just slower. And both of these systems rely on information. Consider this. So, what's next? Well, what about this one? What's next there? You see, it's possible to make different inferences about each of these sequences simply because one contains more data. And we work that way. Both System 1 and 2 use information collected during our life to make best guesses about things. One of the factors that goes into this guessing process are built-in biases. Yep, everybody has biases. It's okay. I'm not judging you. I mean, I have biases too, and I'm not so bad. Of course, that's a judgment. It's also based on biases. So there's that, I guess. Biases are like built-in shortcuts that help us sort out information. At the fundamental level, they're neither good nor bad. Kind of like the camera app on your phone. You can use that to take pictures of your kitties because they make you smile. Or you can take pictures of somebody sitting on the toilet just to embarrass them. It's all on how you use it. However, we don't tend to be aware of our biases since they operate unconsciously. They're kind of running in the background, as it were. For example, confirmation bias is that tendency to gravitate towards information which confirms a belief that we already have. There's also a bias called the IKEA effect, in which one places greater value on something they partially assembled themselves, regardless of the final quality. But why shouldn't we put value in that? Have you tried to follow IKEA instructions? Now, there are a lot of biases. A quick internet search can demonstrate this. Biases aren't good or bad inherently, like I've said. They're just a part of how we're wired. But it is worth noting biases and our personal biases when we ask ourselves, why did I come to that conclusion? Whoa, whoa, whoa. How is any of this related to divination? I'm glad you asked. Human beings are pretty perceptive critters, and we're also completely clueless. And sometimes it's both at the same time. Now, we could call this experience a brain fart. When we get information that doesn't fit, and we can feel those grinding gears as our little brains try to sort it all out. Now, all this background processing isn't a bad thing, it's just a thing. But an awareness of all this can help us interpret the information we receive. We can get out of our own way by understanding even a little bit how we get in our way to begin with. Inscribed on the temple of Apollo in Delphi was the phrase, know thyself. I mean, naturally it was inscribed in Greek, but that's not important right now. Being aware of ourselves, our own minds, our own experiences, all this awareness is part of divination too. The hardest part of practicing divination is that to do it well and with integrity, we first have to look at ourselves. It's a thing, try it on for size. Awareness of how we perceive and process information can allow us more confidence in what we receive during divination. And it can also help us to be better humans. And that's kind of the point, right? There's a little bit of prep work I do before each reading, which helps me get out of my own way and manage my expectations. Holding the deck, I close my eyes and imagine myself standing in a plain white room. My daily frustrations and random thoughts are just the buzzing of so many gnats which I shoo away. Next, I visualize a blue door with a brass doorknob right in the center. As I reach out of my center, in my head I speak my client's name and I repeat it, turning it into a chant. This inner chant builds louder and louder until I can feel that connection to my client. Having made that connection, I lean forward and I knock on that door 3 times. I don't really know why 3 times, it just has a sense of symmetry to it. And then I turn that doorknob and I step to the side and I open that door. I feel the tension of the connection lessen somewhat, and I sometimes feel a breeze. Why do you step aside, you might ask? to get out of the way, of course, because I'm not the source of the information. I'm just an old dumb country boy looking at pictures. I'm an interpreter. And one of the best tools I have for being a good interpreter is managing my expectations. Thanks for spending some of your time with me today. If you've enjoyed yourself, please like, subscribe, and share. My name is Skaji. Safe journey.